Hi guys, well today we're going to be taking a look at our first partner card for the big Navi lineup. So this here is the XFX Merc 319 RX 6800 XT. Now we've got a new naming system for this generation. Merc stands for Mercury, 3 denotes how many fans this card has, 1 stands for 100mm, and then the 9 for 90mm. You're going to see more models with this type of naming system, such as the 210, which should have that 2 fan model with the 100mm fans. And so this card here is going to represent the best of what XFX has to offer, and it can be regarded as a flagship graphics card for the 6800 XT. And of the different cards under that XT badge, this one here is going to be one of the fastest that you guys can get your hands on. So the Merc 319 arrives with a substantial factory overclock to the GPU, and later in our video we're going to be testing this out against the RTX 3080 to see what results we can get. This card also has a gigantic cooling system which adopts a triple fan configuration with a 7 heat pipe heatsink design. Now you guys can expect this card to be in stores pretty soon, and it's going to have a price tag of around $799 in the US, $650 in the UK, and then in Australia it's going to be anywhere around $1100. And again, we're just hoping that there are no stock issues with this series, as I'm sure you're pretty much aware that the RTX 3080 has had some severe supply difficulties, and who knows, if that does continue, we may well see more people jump ship over to AMD. Before we get into today's review, this video is brought to you by ASRock and their new X570 Phantom Gaming Velociter. This board is ready for the newly released AMD Ryzen 5000 series of processors and is equipped with an excellent lineup of features, which include a 14 power phase design with DRMOS, support for up to 5000 MHz DDR4, and arrives with the killer Wi-Fi 6 AX1650. This module supports 160Hz channels and Bluetooth 5.1, delivering up to 2.4 gigabits of throughput. For more details on the ASRock X570 Phantom Gaming Velociter, please check out the link in the description. Okay, so here is the Merc 319. In the past we've seen some real head turners from XFX, but for this new design they've settled for something which is quite a toned down affair, and yet it still makes a big impact. As with all graphics cards, it is the cooler which dominates the view with that triple cooling fan design, and XFX has revamped the thermals on this new wave of cards, and we'll go into the detail later on when we detach that heatsink. And so that shroud is metal rather than plastic, and it uses aluminium, or aluminum as you guys in the States would say, and while that does add to the build quality of this card, it unfortunately is also responsible for giving it a significant weight increase over other GPUs. Combine the shroud with the backplate, the heat spreader and the heatsink, and we have a hefty piece of kit. Merc does come with LED lighting, but it has been kept to a minimum with just the text being highlighted. Now you should not underestimate the size of Merc. It is a huge graphics card, and as such it is worth taking note of the following dimensions. The length is just under 340mm, for the width it is around 125, and then the height is 58mm. As I mentioned in the introduction, this card comes with a factory overclock applied to the GPU, and further to that, because it's an XT, we have Rage mode, which nudges that card up to 289 watts, which in turn allows for a GPU clock boost of up to 2360 MHz. That's an increase of over 100 MHz over stock. The memory sits at the stock reference frequency of 16 gigabits and has the 16 gig of GDDR6. This card uses the PCI Express 4 standard. It comes in there with 4608 stream processors, has DirectX 12 Ultimate support along with Vulkan 1.2 and OpenGL 4.6. Now in terms of the rear I/O panel, this card is a double slotter, but you can quite easily see there the height of the card means it's going to stray into a third PCI Express, which is something to keep in mind. And on the back panel we've got the 2 DisplayPort 1.4s, those can give you the 8K at 60, and we also have one HDMI 2.1 port allowing 4K at 120 and 8K at 60, and then the USB Type-C. We would have expected another HDMI 2.1, but what we have should provide plenty for most users wanting to use multi-display. Now the Merc is quite a power hungry graphics card, and you will need to aim for a 700 watt power supply. It'll be pulling around 300 watts from the 8+8 pin connection. Turning to the back of the card, we have a metal backplate which provides a bit of protection and provides some rigidity. You can see there is quite a few pockets of ventilation, and that backplate there also features some thermal pads on the underside in a bid to alleviate the heat. Now on the back we also have the dual BIOS switch, allowing you to choose between Rage or Balanced mode. Balanced settles for a lower overclock, whereas course, Rage shifts the power limit and the clock speed, giving it the ability to tap into that 2360 MHz. Balance is closer to the PCI Express connectors, and then Rage is further away. Alrighty, well, we've detached that mammoth thermal solution from the card for a closer look at the different elements. This card here uses a new design for XFX with a set of double ball bearing fans which have 13 blades. There are two 100mm and the other is 92mm. Those fans will stop spinning under light load to kill off any noise while the system isn't being used for gaming. And under those fans we have this huge heatsink which has the aluminium fins along with large heat spreaders and 7 6mm heat pipes. So there is cooling there for the VRAM, for the VRM and other components. And if you stick around to the end of the video, we'll be checking how efficient this cooler is. With that cooler off the card, we also get access to the board itself, and this particular model here arrives with a whopping 14 plus 2 phase design. That power delivery is completely digital and is quite an upgrade from the stock AMD design, which is 10 plus 2. And the driving force behind our XT is the Navi 21 XT GPU, which is formulated from the 2nd gen RDNA technology. Now, based on the spec of the GPU, the stream processors and the memory configuration, this card here is aimed at 4K. And so with that closer look now out of the way, let's check out the performance of Merc against the RTX 3080. And for this test we have the Aorus RTX 3080 Master, and instead of discussing some graphs on screen, let's do some actual performance side by side. And for this we're going to be sticking with 4K and the maximum detail preset in each game, and for the likes of Battlefield and Godfall we're going to stick ray tracing on. We'll be using the very latest drivers from AMD and Nvidia, and using a game capture card to reduce any frame rate interference. For the full system spec, please check out that description. We'll also have GPU-Z running in the background to pick up on the max temperatures. The result for that will come at the end. Okay, now if we just come out of our last game, let's see the max temperature results. And there we have it. Okay, well that is the new XFX Merc 319 RX 6800 XT. This is going to be regarded as a flagship for the company, and it definitely earns its place there with those top of the line attributes. As you just saw there, up against the RTX 3080 and an overclocked version at that, it does a brilliant job at competing with such a card. And you know, in some titles the Merc will dominate, it'll pull forward, while in others it kind of falls behind a little bit with just 5 to 10 frames below it. Against a stock reference RTX 3080, this card will have no problems coming out on top. And so for 4K gaming at Ultra with ray tracing, this is a cracking card to pick up. In most games at 4K Ultra, you're going to see it breach 60 frames per second, and it'll even climb up to those triple figures in some titles. In regards to the cooler, the reference XT will hit temperatures in the mid 70s, and this card here is going to give you similar results. The difference being, of course, is that with Merc, it is operating at a much higher frequency. A reference XT at these speeds would certainly dip into the 80s. Noise levels are pretty good and won't cause any disturbance, but you can always jump into that Adrenaline software and enable that quiet preset. The physical design of Merc is very easy on the eye, and it will blend into any build with a black and silver theme. Just watch out for the size of this card, it is huge, and with a metal shroud it weighs a lot, and I would encourage people to pick up a GPU support mechanism for your case. And so what an exciting comeback for AMD at the high end there. They've kind of pulled off the unthinkable, and it's great to see them challenge Nvidia. If you're on the hunt for a 3080, you can't pick one up at the moment, then the Merc is definitely one that you should pop on that shortlist and check out. And even if both cards there are in stock, then you should definitely be considering AMD and XFX, as you're going to be saving quite a chunk of money over the RTX 3080. This particular model here is going to be around $799 US. So what do you guys think of this card here? Are you in the market for a 3080 or a 6800 XT? Let's start some discussion below. We'd love to hear which pathway you're going to take with your upgrade plans. We will have a web review of this card on Vortex.net. The link for that will be on the screen and in the description soon. Over there we're going to have different resolutions, different cards, and a range of different games to look at too. If you like this content, then please subscribe and share it with your buddies. Join in the discussion below, and take care guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.